Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Connected Live. As you can see, I am on my porch right now in the shade because Oklahoma is horrifically hot. The topic I wanted to address today is actually a really interesting one having to do with proper animal care as well as animal communication, as well as collaborating with the professionals that work with you in order to help your animals through the most difficult of times. Probably the most difficult of times we can think of is when an animal is going to get ready to pass. And so I'm going to use Baldor's example, not Baldor, he's alive and well, he's right there. I'm going to use Arrow as an example today. Arrow, as everybody knows, was this amazing rescue that I had the privilege to be included in. I mean, he chose me, and it was just the most amazing thing. 6 years with this magnificent horse that, even despite being a senior, taught me so much about forgiveness, letting go of anger and rage, letting go of abuse, giving humanity a second chance, being an ambassador for his kind to try to protect his kin because he's an endangered breed. There's only 300 left. They were the horses featured in the movie Hidalgo, as many know. So I'm going to explain that when I first got Arrow, as much of a senior animal that he was, sorry, the air conditioning kicking in, thank God for that. I knew that our days were numbered with him. I didn't know if I had 1 year, if I had 3 years, if I had a month. Turned out I got 6. But from the start, I knew that I had to reckon with when he needed to pass, how was that going to happen? First, I spoke with Arrow, and I showed him equine hospitals. And I said, if things get bad enough that you have to go to one of these, is this something you can handle? And I showed him an equine hospital, and he said no. I said, if I'm that sick and at my age, I'm going to want to be let go of so that I don't suffer. I don't want that. And I said, okay. And so I thought about all the issues that could lead to something like that. And every time I went to a different boarding stable, and we were at, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Amanda's was my final boarding stable. I would talk with the owner of the boarding stable, and all of them who will probably be watching this know me for having done this. And I said, when his time comes, I will make the call when he is to pass, and nobody better get in my way. And the owners of the stable were really interesting. Once they got to know me, they realized that I would only do so if it was an absolutely inherently have to be done. And they also knew that I would not leave my horse alone. Like, I've actually seen horse owners, even dog owners, say, I can't handle it, and leave their animals alone to be put down by themselves, which is just horrific. It's so selfish because they're looking to their person to help them in that transition. So I'll get to the situation with Amanda and 3F boarding stable, because that was the stable that it ended up happening at. And I want to talk about it to give others context about how to do so appropriately. Because yes, Arrow technically was mine. So animals, unfortunately, are deemed property. They have no rights. So owners can do what they will. And the animal protection laws are really not great. Technically, the way Arrow was treated in Los Angeles was not deemed animal abuse, though clearly it was. There was no protection for him, and he had no voice and no say. So many times owners are abusive, are neglectful, and others stand around unable to do anything because the law is on the person's side, because the animal is their property. Excuse me as I bend over. If I don't throw, this is a planet dog, Sol, meaning sun in Spanish, and if I don't throw it to Thor, I think he's going to pass out. So there you go. Good boy, Thor. we sit back and we see horrific things done to animals, and vets even can't tell a person what to do. Vets actually will have recommendations, but they can't say you must do this or you must do right by your animal. I mean, I've seen vets have the horrific job of watching a person not put their animal down when it's appropriately because the person's being selfish, and the animal's suffering horrifically. That's something that, emotional literacy wise, I've always put myself in the animal's shoes and gone, A, what would I want? And B, then I ask the animal what they want. Some animals are really can overcome the odds, impossible odds. Like I just had a case with a dog with cancer, and the dog should have been dead months ago. And man, he survived and thrived for all these months working with me with his person. And we gave him extra life, extra time here, but quality of life before it was actually time for him to go. But he should have gone a lot quicker than he did without the work that I do, and the owner knew that, so we were doing regular work. So to Arrow. So Arrow's health starts to decline. I immediately call the vet out. I saw it starting to decline, but I thought we were dealing with something else, and Arrow was really hiding it because he knew what was coming, and he was trying to make it unequivocally like what I had to do was black and white. I know that now, and the time I didn't, but he was kind of setting it up so that I had to let him go because there was no choice. So I see the situation with Arrow get worse. It was a weekend, of course. And so on a friend's recommendation, I call the best veterinary hospital in the area, which happens to be down the road from 3F Boarding Ranch, which is just amazing. And so it's Oak Ridge. And I thought to myself, well, this is appropriate that I have to call Oak Ridge, because if something's really wrong with him, with all the people that helped rescue this animal, and because he was such a public rescue, I sit on the board of directors for a Rescue Me Incorporated in Los Angeles, the only rescue I will give my name to. I realized that I was going to have to go public with all the results. And so I thought to myself, it's appropriate that I have Oak Ridge coming out here, because people are going to want to know what is being done, that the best be done for Arrow as a 30-year-old horse. So Oak Ridge comes out, and we're in agreement that it's EPM. And I went for the intravenous treatments because I said he's too far along. This thing just attacked him so voraciously, EPM, because he was an older horse. I did have my suspicions that something else was going on, but it was so black and white EPM. And Amanda was watching the whole time. I said, Amanda, I'm calling the vet out. She said, you can wait. I said, no, something's telling me not to wait. So she was even being relaxed about it, letting me run this show, if you will. They come out, clear case of EPM. I don't care about the money at this point. I'm not a wealthy person. I don't have a trust fund. I'm a holistic healer. I don't have a $1 million husband supporting this whole thing. This has all been through my own work, my own practice, okay? So I'm calling Oak Ridge out, and I'm cringing because I'm going, how am I gonna make this work financially? Honestly, when you take on a horse, it's just your responsibility. You take into consideration everything going on. But if you have an emergency situation, if your parent or your child or your whatever, your partner's at risk, you do what has to be done. So Oak Ridge comes out because he couldn't be trailered. He was too unstable. And we start intravenous treatments because we knew he was too far along. Day 3, we see incremental improvement. And I said to Amanda, this is not good enough. This should be a faster response, even at his age. Something's wrong. Something's really wrong. And then it hit me like a tidal wave. And the vet, Oak Ridge, was out again. They were coming out every day to do the intravenous stuff. They were so wonderful about it. Oak Ridge, tops. And then we went into the the blood work, because the vet looked at me and I said, something else is wrong, let's do the blood work. So we pulled blood, and within an hour, he had neuroplasty. And the vets at Oak Ridge consulted with their top specialists. The first person I called was Bryant Rickman, Arrow's breeder, who has followed his rescue and me moving here because I wanted to bring the horse home. We filmed, and I said, this is what's happening. Are you okay with what I'm about to do? And he said, you're making the right decision. And I said, okay. So as I'm talking, I'm going to move the camera because I have something cooking on the stove, and this is going a little faster than I thought. So you guys are going to join me as I run in. So as I continue the story, make sure I'm not burning everything to a crisp. And I'm not, thank God. Okay, so we can go back outside. The vet called me up, and I was in the car headed home. I was actually buying special feed for Arrow. I was doing everything possible, and Amanda knew it. Amanda was watching very, very quietly, but very observantly. That is her job as a responsible barn owner, by the way. It's her job not to be in my face. It's her job to make sure that the horse that is at her boarding stable is getting the appropriate care that the horse needs. So she has to walk a fine line between somebody not allowing abuse on her property, but also honoring the fact that the horse is owned by a particular person. So Amanda's just got great discernment, man. She's an incredible barn owner. So the second phone call I made, as the vets at Oak Ridge said, what are you going to do? And I said, there's no saving him. They said no. And he's in pain. He's hiding it. And he's bleeding into his abdomen, which is why his abdomen looked a little bit bloated. And I went, that's all you have to say. We're done here. If there's no way to save him, there's no treatment possible, we're done here. And I'm not going to let him spend a minute. I might get bleary-eyed. A minute more in pain. This horse deserves better than that. So I'm running like the Tasmanian devil back to the barn. And the second, by the way, first, but Oak Ridge offered the vet, he's booked. I have him at 9 o'clock the next morning for the next intravenous treatment. And I said, I can't let him be in pain. Can you please come out? I know you're booked. And he said, I'll come out on my lunch break. What a great vet. The vet that came with him was another veterinarian, not even a tech. They both gave their lunch breaks so that Arrow wouldn't have to spend another moment in pain. He knew it was the right thing to do too. He couldn't say, this is what I'm going to do, because vets can't do that. But when I made the right choice, that vet, man, what a great vet. Oak Ridge, can't say enough about him. So the second phone call I make is to Amanda. And I explain the situation to her. And she said, Gabby, are you sure you don't want an ultrasound to prove that he's bleeding into his abdomen? I said, no, it's neuroplasty. They've already checked the blood work. This is what's happening. And she said, this is not a decision you can ever take back. Are you sure? I said, yes. And she said, Bill and I would feel better if we saw an ultrasound. And I said, I understand. And so she was still at home. Bill was at home because it was, I think, his day off, or he was done his shift. And these are really good people. Like, they're being mindful. They want the right thing by the horse. They know it's an emotional situation. She's checking in with me. She's absolutely doing the right thing. So I get out there, and I know I only have 20 minutes to say my goodbyes. Arrow would not come to me in the stall. And I looked at him and I said, I know what's happening now. You have cancer, and I'm not going to be able to stop it. And I'm not going to waste any more time or leave you in pain. I'm going to do what I promised you, and I'm going to help you pass. And then he looked at me, and he came right over to me, and he put his head right in the in his halter. So he knew. He knew that I had come to the conclusion, and he did. He forced me down this path. He hid the cancer. The EPM didn't finish Arrow. Cancer finished Arrow. So the cancer, the neuroplasty, was brewing for a long time, but he was hiding it. And the EPM came in because his body was so weak that it was able to take a hold of him. There is no cure for neuroplasty. So if we had caught it early, hypothetically, I would have spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to save him in an impossible situation because he looked good, and the end result still would have been putting him down, because there's no way to stop it in a horse. There's no way to stop that big bubble from forming and the bleeding out to be happening. So Arrow consciously saved me from the agony of the past few months of watching him in the slow decline, knowing there was nothing I could do. And he did that consciously, and he admitted it to me in the end. What a brilliant horse. And one of the other vets that I know said to me the night before, Arrow's in control. And he was the whole time. So getting down to Arrow and 3F and Amanda's job as a boarding stable owner. She came down to the stable and she was very quiet and centered. She wasn't hysterical. She was perfect energy. She looked at me and she said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yes, I'm sure." And I said, if I could, I'd save him. If I could, I don't care how much money it'd take, I would save him. I can't put him into an animal hospital because it's not what he wants. But I would do anything else. So the vet was arriving from Oak Ridge, and he heard the conversation as he was unpacking his things. And he came in and he looked at her and he looked at me and he said, "I guarantee you, he is bleeding into his abdomen and he's in pain. Any other horse would have destroyed this barn, torn this barn apart." He goes, "The fact that this horse is so stoic," he said, "what a magnificent horse. He knows exactly what's happening." Needless to say, what a gentleman this vet is, because he did the ultrasound. Not in anger, not in frustration, but because the owner of the property, the boarding stable, brought up a legitimate concern. Because in the end, I board my horse there, that's my responsibility. But it's Amanda's responsibility as a boarding stable owner of a quality place to make sure that owners are doing the right thing, because she doesn't want people in that barn that don't do the right thing. And even though I am an experienced owner and I do what I do for a living, she also knows he's my horse and it's a very emotional situation. And she knows that he was a very public rescue, and people care. Other boarders care. That is this a quality place where the animal's best interests are at heart. The minute Amanda saw the ultrasound, the minute she went, "Oh my God," and saw all the blood, she said, "Absolutely." It was worth it for her peace of mind too, because in the end, when you're at a boarding stable, it's a collaboration. She's a business owner with a responsibility to the integrity, the ethics of her business, and how her business is publicly perceived. So she takes an interest, not only are the horses' day-to-day care her responsibility for feeding, but she's responsible that the horses look good, are treated well, if they need something, if they're lame. Like if someone brings somebody to do a service that's not the best and a horse is lame or doesn't look right, it looks bad on Amanda. Because perception is everything. It's her business. And if she doesn't stick up for the horses, whether it's an experienced person or an inexperienced person, or there are other politics involved, then her business is in jeopardy. So I appreciated her going that extra mile to make sure that I was making the right decision by Arrow. Because you know what? She cared for him every day for the time that I've been in Oklahoma. She rode him, one of the last people to be able to ride Arrow, one of the few people to be able to ride Arrow besides me. She loved him. She puts her heart into every single horse in that barn. I'll give one more example before I close this. Arrow was getting older, and being ridden every day was not in his best interest. Shoeing him was not inexpensive, and he was having trouble with it. In the end, he was getting annoyed with the shoes due to his arthritis, so he was being a bit of a pain in the neck. And so one of the things that I considered was removing his shoes. I started the conversation with Amanda first, but I also talked to two other people. So I talked to 3 people total besides my own experience. So my want to save money was to take his shoes off, make my life easier, his life easier, because there's no banging on his arthritis. So I talked to Amanda first and I said, how do you feel about taking his shoes off? And she said, well, what are you thinking? And I said, well, I'd like to save a little bit of money. Things are lean right now, but I don't want to jeopardize his health. And so she said to me, well, at the angle that his feet are at and the problems that he has, I feel like we could drive his foot to fall apart, as well as create leg problems that we've been able to keep into control this whole time by keeping his shoes on. Because, his legs were so battle worn and precarious because of, what those barbarians did to him in California. They shoot him wrong to keep him in pain, so his angles were totally wrong. We corrected as much as we could in a senior horse to keep him stable. And I said, and she said, there is a risk of destabilizing Arrow's legs and his feet. So then we talked to the farrier, and then I talked to a vet. So the concern of destabilizing him and putting him in pain outweighed the saving of $100. Some people may disagree with me, but to put a horse in pain, standing in pain, I thought of myself and having feet problems or wearing shoes that don't fit, or not wearing shoes at all, by the way, and going barefoot on rocks, and when I haven't been barefoot in eons. The stress it puts on a horse to be in pain, the stress toxins that can cause ulcers, problems in the feet and the legs can cause ulcers, can cause emotional destabilization, anger issues, rage issues, behavioral problems, foundering. I can go on and on and on, and then we would have had just a cataclysmic domino effect of vet problems, not to mention Arrow's unhappiness and uncomfortable. So we all decided that the $100 savings was not worth his well-being, and we were saving money in the long run on more problems. Very important to consult with the barn owner, because the barn owner, when you're at a good place like 3F, is completely invested in the well-being of your horse. So I've gotten to the point in my relationship with Amanda that I've said, don't pull any punches with me. Absolutely tell me, don't pull. Even if you think you're going to offend me, tell me what you think. If I think you're wrong, fine, then we'll go to the next level and consult with the vet and the farrier. But I want to know your opinion, because I want you at peace that I'm doing the best with my horses. Even today, I see a nuance wrong with Jack or William, and I check it with her. Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? Can I leave shoes off the boys? Now, I have Oklahoma Heritage horses. They're Mustangs. They're Spanish Mustangs. They have mule feet. Neither boy has ever had shoes on them, and their feet are beautiful. Now, if I increase my level of activity, am I going to need shoes? I don't know. We have yet to see that yet, but I'm monitoring their feet very carefully. The tenderfoot of the group tends to be William, of course, my drama queen. But I'm watching them both very carefully, and I always tell Amanda, if you see something that I'm missing, I'm out every day, which Amanda loves, because she's like, you ain't no absentee owner. You are here every day checking. If I'm not there every day checking, I said, do you mind giving them the once over? If you see anything suspicious, let me know if I have to make time to come out there. Being at a boarding stable, working with professionals with your pets is a collaboration. You always won't know what's the right thing to do. You may know the right thing to do, and then you still need to communicate and be emotionally literate with the team of people taking care of your animals. And in the end, as most of you know, I did a video and I explained everything, because on top of it, Arrow was a rescue. It was a very public rescue. And somebody had said for the documentary, can you do some footage, Heidi? And I said, my God, I don't know if I have it in me. But thank God Heidi brought it up, because I remembered I have a responsibility to all the people who donated to Arrow's rescue. All the people on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter who have watched this horse go through the past 6 years. So I did the video, I did the Connected Live, because I had a responsibility, because this horse was a rescue and he was public. So I did it. And I'm glad I did, because a lot of people validated the fact it was the right thing to do. I did it tastefully. I did not show his whole body. I showed his barrel so that people could see that he was next to me, but I did not show his face or his whole body. I thought that was tacky. I wasn't going to cut anything off of him. I know a lot of people want to share the passing of an animal. I don't recommend you show the whole body. You freak people out. I showed just a portion of his barrel so that they could see he was laying down next to me and he had passed. So emotional literacy is very important when you have an animal. It's very important when you deal with your vets. They won't tell you what to do, but if the vet trusts you not to be a complete lunatic, they will tell you their opinion in confidence, not for public display. I've had more than one vet know when I was in a crisis that I didn't know what to do, and I've had to say, your experience with me is that I'm not insane. I really want to know, if he was your animal, what you would do. If they have confidence in you, they'll tell you. If they don't, they won't tell you directly, but they'll give you a leading answer of what is the right thing to do. So with that said, I hope this has helped everybody with some of these issues that I'm talking about today. If you need help with your own health, your business, your career, if you need help with your pet behaviorally, if there's a gap and some problems with behavior or with veterinary care, please give me a call. You can go to my Connected Live page. I have over 17 amazing 5-star reviews on there. Thank God. I'm so grateful helping more people find and work with me. Location is not an issue because I've done things distance my whole career. So COVID's not a problem. And a lot of times I can correct an issue without having to take them into the vet, which is pretty uncomfortable at this point because of everything having to be done with COVID. So you'll see the link to find me on my website and make an appointment with me. Again, location is not an issue. I either use phone or Zoom or Skype for international clients. Talk to you all soon. Have a great day. Remember, a lot of times we need a lot of others to help us make the right choice. And animal abuse is not about cruelty as far as malicious intent. A lot of times animal abuse occurs because of ignorance. And even after 40 years of doing what I do, I still check in with other experts, because I never want my ignorance to cause an animal pain or suffering that's unnecessary. So I always come at work with myself and other people from humility, and always look for guidance when it comes to making the right choice with other pets. Get out of your own way. Get out of your own grief. Get out of your own upset and your own ego for making the decision. And check in with others about what the right thing is to do. Take in the information and allow yourself to be open to what is actually the right thing once you get clear of your own emotions and your own grief. Thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful day. I hope this was helpful, and we'll talk soon again. Bye-bye.